Are you ready for today's show? This is going to be wild. You know, I'm here in my studio, taking you behind the scenes where all the sausage is made. And I got this new board here. Wow, look at that. Wonderful. I just got done teaching this, and I'm telling you, there's an anointing on this message. It looks a little chaotic, but after all, isn't that like your life at times? I'm going to explain to you the phases and stages that get you into the sweet spot where you're walking in the fulfillment of the prophetic word that God gave you. So many people love prophecy, but only 20% actually fulfill prophecy. Do you know that? 20% walk in fulfillment of the thing God called them. I'm going to show you how to go through the phases and stages to get there. And you know why? Watch this. Because I've got the kit right here. The whole system is the ultimate life strategy. I'm teaching from this. These are my notes for today's episode. And we're going to go into, this is exciting stuff. Every module is powerful. All you got to do is go to lancewallnau.com/strategy. And you can see behind the curtain and all the content that I've got. But stay tuned because I got something free for you in this episode, and I don't want you to miss out on it. Let's get into today's teaching. All right, this is the fourth installment of this training I'm doing on, it's really coming from a course that I work on called Your Ultimate Life Strategy. And what we've said so far is that you were designed for a purpose and you'll be alive to the degree that you're doing the thing you're called to do. And ultimately, God did not design your life so it would be frustration, just barely getting by or surviving. You are the most alive, let's admit it, when you're doing what you're gifted to do and you're funded or paid to do what you love to do most. And wouldn't that be great? Of course, the problem is you might like fishing and no one's going to pay you to go fishing. So what you want to think about is, what is it that I'm ultimately called to do? Now we come into the question of God's purpose, God's calling, God's assignment. And what I've said so far is that convergence, or the word convergence, describes that unique moment of the intersection of when your gifts, talents, and acquired skills are sucked into the vortex of God, inviting you to join Him in what He planned for you to do all along. The moment you step into a prophetic alignment with what you were born to do, you activate 100% actualized capacity to use all of what you've learned, all of what you've got in the context of doing the thing God called you to do. And it's an exhilarating place to be. So here's what I've said so far, that if we look at it like a picture, well, we'll go this way. Let's say you've got, this is the mountain of your personal capacity. This is your PC right here. Personal capacity is the sum total of your, just go with the most important parts of it, your health, your financial resources, and your spiritual clarity, your walk with God. Then, of course, you have to have the emotional ability, the emotional capacity to endure, to be patient, to be resilient, to persist, to stay with what you've got to do. Try running without having the financial resources, or walking without the grace of God, or not having the emotional capacity. You're getting burned out. Try being in a job you hate, you don't like, spending 4 hours a week doing what you don't have convergence in, and then have yourself. Notice these things do matter. How can you, this is your personal capacity. I'm putting your personal capacity up here at a level 10, all the way down to a 5, to a 3, to a 1. You want to be right there in the level 10 personal capacity. Why? Well, because if your marriage is falling apart, or if you're single and unfulfilled and keep having lousy dates and bad selection of boyfriends or women, if your children are out of whack and you've got a child that's dealing with addiction or something, these things will throw you out in terms of personal capacity. Why? Because your personal capacity, I'm saying, is designed as the resource that fuels you in the performance of what I will call the convergence zone, which is career convergence. This is 40 plus hours a week where you're doing what makes you the most alive, utilizing your talents in a way that makes a difference. your personal capacity will equal your career or convergence capacity. And if your personal capacity goes down, it makes sense, right? That if your personal capacity is here, let me erase this part, and let's just put it this way. If your personal capacity is down here, how are you going to sustain yourself at that level? When you don't have the energy, the juice, the health, the finances, the marriage, the support system? And I haven't even dealt with, these three things look like they're optional. But I mean, recreation, which is the renewal of your creative energy. How much of your capacity here is based on your ability to innovate, to think, to be fresh, to look at things in a new direction? So you see, you can't afford to not pay attention to this part here. So let's say you've got your finances isn't an issue, but your marriage is. Well, here, use your finances to buy time, to get away and focus on building the relationship or building the relationship here. Well, let's say, well, brother, that'd be nice if I had the money. I don't have that. Okay, well, hold on a second. You do have relationships, family and friends, right? And maybe what you want to do is you want to go to them and see what you can do to build up. What do they know about health or fitness or about lifestyle? Pick the healthiest, most dynamic friend. You're going to be surprised how my people perish for lack of knowledge. And you can take any of your strengths here and go to your relationships and see, how can I leverage what I've got here? I've got a great spiritual life. I'm feeling good emotionally. What I'm doing is working. Stop it. What I'm doing here is working. But it could be that your career is hurting, because I would take the time off then to be able to start to explore, what am I really gifted and called to do? When have I been the most alive? What I'm saying is the wheel of life that you do enables you to do a forensic analysis of the areas in your life that you want to improve in order to have greater capacity, and you can take and borrow from strengths to invest in where something's missing. Does that make sense to you? I remember, for instance, how I had a problem where I needed an office. I mean, my whole office here, the studio I'm working with right now, didn't exist. And the Lord said to me, your wheel of life is really weak on rest and on renewal and on family and on marriage. You've been poured out over here in spirit and work. I want you to do this vacation. I said, Lord, I got all these employees. Our office lease is up. We don't know where we're going. The Lord said, trust the word. So I obeyed him. I went on vacation, and I took, it was a couple of weeks. Annabelle wanted to get away out of the United States with me and have the kids visit. All right. While I was on vacation, the studio property appeared. One could ask, had I stayed home and said, it's not practical for me to go on vacation, I need to find an office for the team, I can't do it right now, I might have missed the office. I might have missed this property. But the property appeared while I was on vacation, because God has a process. In fact, I'm going to simplify this even further. Let me move that up there in my magic board. I'm going to share with you the work that was done by a guy named Tuckman. What Tuckman did was he discovered 4 phases of a group. Now, I want you to think about this. In your life, you've gone through at least, I'm going to show you a cycle of experience that has gone into your whole life journey. I want you to begin to decode your calling, your destiny, and your assignment. Tuckman said that groups go through 4 phases. And I noticed those 4 phases are actually what you go through in the Bible. Christians go through these 4 phases. We're going to show you what the 4 phases are. The first stage is called the group forming. So this is when people come together. And I want you to think about your own life. That's the stage where you set the ground rules for what you're going to do. Now tell me if you've had this happen to you in 2 minutes. I got to go through this. Then you hit the storming stage. The storming stage is when differences show up, power plays take place. Who's in control? Who does what? I do that, you do that. This is normal. Christians go through this more predictably than anybody. Churches go through it. During the third stage, you come into the norming stage. Suddenly the group discovers how they're going to operate. Some people get fired, some people get promoted, and we finally have the team functioning the way it needs to function. And only then do you hit the performing stage. And so I looked at this and I said, wait a second. These stages and these phases actually apply to 4 phases of destiny in a person's life. And as I looked at it more closely, oh wait, there's a 5th stage. And this is called adjourning. I like how he gave it a nice word, adjourning. Because the word for it is, it ends. That all groups have an ending. All phases in your career and in your life have an ending. But now I want you to come down to this analogy. That in your life, you've had these stages here where you had a great dream of what you were going to do. Think about a period of life when you took a job. You got a job? Think about one of those jobs. And then you took it, or you wanted to go into business, you wanted to start something, and you went into distress as soon as you got in it. Hey, the dream was maybe a marriage. Oh, this is going to be a lovely thing. You got the romance in your head, and then you wake up with crying babies and bills to pay, and you find out that you're heading more towards divorce. Nobody gets married and plans on this, but this is where it's going to go. So it could be a job, it could be a ministry experience, but if it's one of those 4 phases in your life that you've gone through this, you went through distress, and then if you stuck with it, you went through development. You came out and grew as a result of the experience. You came out, maybe you learned something about yourself after the bad relationship, about your selection criteria, about what you're really looking for, about who you really are and what you really need. And then you can come into a relationship that actually starts to be fruitful and you start to demonstrate it. Or you get the dream job and you find out the boss is a real pain to work with. The job has a lot of crazy customers. It's got hours you never thought about. But you mature and develop in how you're going to handle it. And then you begin. These 4 phases are the 4 phases you go through in life on different phases. Now, why am I showing you that? Because when you look at that picture, if you shrink it down, you look at this, these phases and your personal capacity all come into play. What I want you to think about is how these processes actually have come together to bring you to an ultimate life phase where the dream for your next chapter gets clear and you're ready for what follows. I'm going to talk to you about how to architect the next 5 years of your life. And you'll know exactly what the plan looks like, and you'll have a personal capacity to be able to do what you're ultimately called to do. Remember, that's lancewallnau.com/wheel. Starts here. Where there's a will, there's a way. All right, I'm going to come back to you with another episode, and we're going to dig down on this because I never got to the bottom of this, which is what happens at every phase.
Most people never step into their true calling, not because they lack passion, but because they lack strategy. Your ultimate life strategy is the blueprint to unlock your gifts, align with your purpose, and build the life you were meant to live.
But if God really has a serious upgrade for you in terms of calling, an assignment, or transition, you're going to have to be something you've never been and do stuff you've never done.
Step into the convergence zone, where your talents collide with God's destiny for you.
I'm going to tell you, your passion tells you what you're called to do, and your gifts tell you how you're going to do it.
Go to lancewallnau.com/strategy. That's lancewallnau.com/strategy and start living your ultimate life.
Did you enjoy this latest episode? Please remember to share it with your friends.